If you watched the movie of Sarah's life, you would think it was a romance. The lighting was always perfect. The wardrobe was impeccable. The set design of her apartment was curated to the millimeter. From the outside, she was the main character in a story about success. But Sarah knew the truth. She wasn't the main character. She was the prop master. She lived in a house of cards that she had to glue back together every single morning. The most expensive thing Sarah owned wasn't her Italian leather sofa, and it wasn't the limited edition handbag resting on it. The most expensive thing she owned was her reputation. And the rent on that reputation was due every day, and the price was rising. She didn't buy things because she wanted them. She bought them because she was terrified of the silence that would happen if the audience stopped clapping. To Sarah, an empty wall wasn't space, it was failure. To Sarah, a quiet weekend wasn't rest, it was irrelevance. She was running a race where the finish line moved 10 feet further away every time she took a step. God usually sends warning signs before the storms in the form of quiet whispers, but we so often fail to listen, drowned out by the constant noise of life. Sarah got her whisper on a Thursday morning 3 weeks before the crash. She was driving her car, a luxury lease she couldn't really afford but felt she needed for client meetings. She was rushing. She was always rushing. Suddenly, a light flashing on the dashboard. Check engine. It was a small amber glow, a warning. A prudent person would have pulled over or would have gone to the mechanic. But Sarah was nothing of it. And besides, that would have probably meant her spending money when her bank account was the last thing she wanted to look at. She did the mental math instantly and concluded that a mechanic meant money. Money she did not have. A mechanic meant time. Time she could not spare. So she did what she did with every other problem in her life. She turned up the radio, which drowned out the hum of the engine with the noise of a podcast about hustling harder. She looked at the amber light, that burning eye of truth, and she decided to put a piece of black tape over it in her mind. "I'll deal with it later," she said. Later. The most dangerous word in the English language. She drove on, the car kept moving, the facade held. She thought she had gotten away with it. But debt, whether it is mechanical, financial, or spiritual, always comes to collect, and it charges interest. 3 weeks later, Tuesday night. The bill came due. Sarah was at dinner with a friend. Let's call her the mirror, because she was just another version of the life Sarah was trying to fake. The restaurant was loud, expensive, designed to be photographed. Her friend leaned across the table, pointed to Sarah's new bag and whispered, "That is stunning. I am so jealous." For 3 seconds, Sarah felt the high, the rush, the validation she had been speeding toward. She smiled. She looked successful. She looked perfect. Then the waiter arrived. He placed the black folder on the table. Sarah reached for her card, the one with the high limit, the heavy metal one that made a satisfying thud when it hit the tray. She handed it over without looking. That was part of the performance too, casual indifference to cost. 2 minutes later, the waiter returned. He didn't put the folder down, he held it. He leaned in, his voice a polite whisper that sounded like a gunshot. "I'm sorry, ma'am, the card was declined." The room stopped. The music didn't stop, but Sarah's heart did. The amber warning light she had ignored 3 weeks ago was no longer a whisper. Now it was a scream. She felt the heat rise up her neck, the shame. She looked at her friend, who was pretending not to hear. She looked at the waiter. She looked at the bag sitting on the chair next to her, the bag she bought to feel rich. And in that moment, Sarah realized the horrifying truth. She was a pauper in a princess costume. She was sitting in a restaurant she couldn't afford, wearing clothes she hadn't paid for, trying to impress a woman she didn't even trust. The engine had finally failed. The car had stopped. There was no radio loud enough to drown this out. Sarah reached into her last remaining savings to clear the bill. As her friend, flustered and apologetic, cycled through excuses, her wallet forgotten, her digital payments mysteriously failing. Sarah's heart pinched with sorrow, knew then she had had enough of living this farce. That night, when Sarah went home, she went to the only place that felt real. She sat on the floor of her bedroom in the dark. She stripped off the costume. She hurled her bag into the corner of the room. It hit the wall with a dull thud. Final, exhausted. Her eyes drifted to the shelf. She reached down and pulled out a book thick with dust, buried at the very bottom, as though it had been waiting to be found. It was her Bible. Inside it wasn't escape, but something far more dangerous. Advice written over 2,000 years ago, yet sharp enough to cut through the present. She had come looking for silence, for something to drown out the racing noise of the evening, the conversations, the excuses, the quiet betrayals. Instead, she found a mirror. Each line reflected a life she had been avoiding, forcing her to confront the choices she'd made and the ones she'd been afraid to make. And then there it was, a sentence that landed like a twist in the third act, the kind that reframes everything that came before. Contentment is great gain. The room fell still. Sarah stopped. In her world, in our world, gain means addition. Gain is more. But this ancient scripture was arguing for a different kind of physics. It was suggesting that gain is actually found in subtraction. It was suggesting that the wealthiest person in the restaurant wasn't the one with the metal card. It was the one who could afford to leave. It was the one who didn't need the waiter's approval. Sarah realized she had been diligent about her image, but negligent about her soul. The Bible warned her, the plans of the diligent lead to profit, but haste leads to poverty. She had been hasty. She had rushed past the warning lights, and now amidst her beautiful things, she was spiritually bankrupt. The next morning, Sarah didn't wait for a miracle. She started a war. She declared war on the performance. She walked over to the limited edition bag. She didn't admire it. She took a photo of it and listed it for sale. Then the vase, then the shoes, then the subscriptions to the lifestyle she didn't actually lead. Every time she sold an item, she paid off a debt. And every time she paid off a debt, she felt the check engine light in her soul turn off. The silence in her home changed. It wasn't the heavy silence of secrets anymore. It was the peaceful silence of truth. Her friend, the mirror, asked her why she wasn't at the gala that weekend. Sarah didn't lie. She didn't make an excuse. She said, "I can't afford the ticket, not the money. I can't afford the stress." For the first time in a decade, Sarah was invisible, and she was free. We are all Sarah. We all have a warning light flickering on our dashboard right now. Maybe it's a credit card bill you haven't opened. Maybe it's a knot in your stomach every Sunday night. Maybe it's the exhaustion of pretending you have it all together. You have a choice. You can turn up the radio, you can drive until the engine blows, or you can pull over, you can look under the hood. You don't need a financial miracle to fix this. You need clarity. If you are tired of the performance, I have created a tool called the 15-minute clarity check. It is the mechanic's diagnostic for your life. It helps you separate the props from the truth. You can download it for free in the description below. Don't wait for the decline. Don't wait for the crash. The warning light is a gift. Listen to it. Welcome to the quiet.